to selling high-end services, to selling a service in general, is how to connect with the other human. I can give you a script. If you guys want a script afterwards, I have all sorts of stuff, free stuff I can give you. But no matter, if you don't say it in a way where you're really connecting with the person, right, it's going to be hard. Now, here's another piece. There's a lot of entrepreneurs who are single because they overwork, because they're scared of intimacy. And what Julia is going to do is she's going to open your eyes to what's possible if you embrace intimacy in different areas of your life, personal, business, everywhere. Okay? Please give us a warm welcome for Julia.
Thank you so much. Okay. Raise your hand if you want to serve more clients and help more people this year. Both hands, more people. All right, cool. Raise your hand if you also know that people are the hardest part of business. Right? People are the hardest part of life, actually. And you guys may not think that you have intimacy issues, and that's fine, but everyone has past relationship pain that they carry. Everyone has stories, like the one Leela was speaking to that ran in her head this morning. And those are the things that are gonna trip you up. Right, so I'm gonna have you guys actually just dive right in to an exercise. So we're gonna practice connecting just a little bit, but actually first I'm gonna have you just close your eyes. Beautiful. And Johanna did all that awesome work to get us into our bodies. So what I'm gonna have you do is just bring to your mind a time when you felt very hurt by a person, a time when you experienced pain in a relationship. And just go with the first person that comes up. That's usually the right one. It could be a boss, it could be a family member, it could be a partner, it could be a friend. What I want you to do is really bring that person to mind, bring their face into your mind, and watch what happens in your body. Really notice how it feels, the sensations, the thoughts that come up, maybe urges that come up. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. And you guys are probably mostly empaths in here, so if you are, you probably felt the energy shift a little bit, right? I was like, whoa, okay. So I'm gonna have you actually partner off. So just turn to the person next to you and first decide who's gonna be person A and then who's gonna be person B. If you don't have someone next to you or if you need a partner, just kind of raise your hand and we'll try to set you up. Antoine and Tony, okay, cool. Okay, so A or B, okay. So what we're gonna do is just have a little sharing time, and person A is going to start and ask person B, how did it feel? And you can share details about the experience if you like. You absolutely don't have to. The most important thing is how did it feel? And in fact, I want you to ask person B 3 times, because the first answer usually isn't getting to the heart of it. Okay, and then we'll switch. So go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, if you haven't switched yet, now might be a good time to go ahead and switch. Okay, take just about another minute to wrap up, please. Okay, friends, let's go ahead and wrap up. Come to a stopping point. You guys can share after. It was however it was supposed to be. Okay, beautiful. I loved watching that and feeling that because that is the real shit. I'm sorry if you don't like cursing, but I will curse.
So before when you're announcing that, you would close her eyes. She's like, I felt it with my third eye, and I was just sitting here, and I'm like, oh, that.
Yeah, yeah. The people around us affect us, especially if we're sensitive, you know, which all of you are. All of you are really sensitive. And what you just felt and what you just so bravely and vulnerably shared with one another, that is why I do the work that I do. And that is really possibly the thing that is holding you back from your next level of success in business. So I want to encourage you to really make that link, you know? Yeah, some people are already making the connection. Yeah. So, I mean, you guys are smart, right? Everybody knows we have childhood pain. I work a lot with that. I'm Julia Phoenix, by the way. I know Leila introduced me, but it's only fair that I do my I help statement. I help high achieving women who want to help the world, but who struggle with relationships, you know? And everything in life is about relationships. Literally everything, business included, 100%. I want to thank Leila for inviting me to speak today. I'm just like so beyond honored and thrilled. Leila has changed my life. I absolutely love her. And if you allow her to catalyze you, she'll change your life as well. And I'm really in awe of all of you who stood up here again so bravely and spoke your mission. Really, that's hard to do. That's really brave. I love entrepreneurs, especially heart-centered ones like you guys. And I really do believe that this is how we're going to change the world. We're shifting the paradigm. Like, we are changing the way things are working, and it's not going to change by way of the old system. It's going to change because of people like you who are creating something new. Yeah, like you and you. No. So I really honor you. Is it okay if I tell you a little bit about myself? My mouth is so dry all of a sudden. I'm like, throat chakra. So the personal story part. This is the intimate. Okay. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You can do it.
Look what I manifested. I love it. I love it. You're so sweet. You guys are so sweet. It's okay. I do want to say today I really have an amazing life. I live in the Portland area, but it's outside Portland in the woods. Beautiful big cedar home with my incredible partner, Antoine, who's here today, and with Barb's son. And actually there are 6 of us all together in the home. We live in what's called an intentional community. And an intentional community is a group of people who've chosen to live together as family, to create our own family, to coexist, to meet each other's needs, and to heal together. I get emotional talking about it because it's really my heart, and I lived in an intentional community. I moved in about a year and a half ago. And the other thing that happened about a year and a half ago is that, or since then, I should say, I almost quadrupled my income. And that's not a coincidence. I've been focusing heavily on relationships for the past 7 years or so in my personal development work. And, it was about 7 years ago that I met a man. Baby, could you bring me my water that's on the table over there? I'm like, my mouth is so dry for some reason. I'm not used to it. Portland is like, everything is moist. Oh my God.
Get stuck in the ocean.
Oh, see, look at that support. Look at that. No, I'm serious though. He set up the mic. Like, because I have support like him and a whole community of people behind me, I can do almost anything, and I know that I can. I have people that are holding me that are gonna catch me. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm so much less afraid. I'm less afraid of people. I'm less afraid of the world, And it was not always that way. I was terrified of people most of my life, for good reasons, right? So I grew up in Silicon Valley, actually, in Palo Alto. And this was in the middle of the dot-com boom, at the heart of Silicon Valley. And what I'll say about that is that I jokingly like to call Silicon Valley the land of Mini Coopers and studio apartments and tables for one, because there are a lot of people there that are really intellectual, really high achieving, really tapped into technology, but they're cut off from their bodies, they're cut off from their hearts, and they're deeply disconnected. There is a loneliness epidemic on planet Earth today, but nowhere have I seen it worse than where I grew up in Silicon Valley, right? So that was sort of the climate in which I grew up. And my family, we had this sort of like white picket fence thing going on. I don't know if anybody knows Palo Alto, but it's kind of like it's like an upper class type of a thing. And we had this nice family image, right? And image was everything that we portrayed. Image was everything for my family. But behind closed doors, it was really, really different. It was like a double reality. My father sexually abused me from the ages of 2 to 8. My mother was very emotionally unwell, mentally unstable. And to top it all off, my family was involved in a cult. I don't speak very often about this, but it actually came up last night with Antoine. I was thinking about my speech. I was involved in this cult and, as a child. And if you want to talk about like not trusting people, when you grow up in a cult, it's like everybody could hurt you, especially like a cult that is really dark. So I found out that, the leader of this cult was a really dangerous pedophile and sexual predator, right? So I grew up around these like really dangerous people. Life was not safe, but I wasn't allowed to talk about it. Does anybody relate to that? You might not relate to the specific trauma, right? But everyone, I'm on maybe the extreme end. Everyone has childhood trauma, right? So, obviously that affected me in really intense ways. I loved what you shared. I've forgotten your name, but you work with women who have food issues and body issues. I had an eating disorder for over half my life. In order to cope with this, I was addicted to drugs and alcohol, including heroin. And I tried to kill myself actually 3 times in my early 20s. So a lot of really destructive patterns, And thankfully, I went to rehab when I was about 23 and I got clean and sober. And that's when things really started to shift for me. And part of that was connecting to a community, a recovery community that supported me, and I worked my ass off, you guys. Worked my ass off in therapy, in 12-step, because I remember I looked in the mirror when I was in rehab and I made a decision that I wanted to live and I was going to do whatever it took, right? And I did. But when I was 26, I met him. Did anybody have like a capital H him in their life? Or her, right? he was like, you know, everything I thought I wanted. It was like, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that kind of like love at first sight connection, the heart exploding and like the clouds are parting and the angels singing. And you're just like, oh, this is it. This is just like it for me. And right. Anyway, that's what it was like. So I thought like, oh my God, like I found my person. Life's going to be great now. Right. No, it was not long before we started triggering the hell out of each other. And when I say we triggered each other, that's like an understatement. It's like we were these like puzzle pieces from hell, just like our patterns, they just fit together perfectly in like this awful, awful way that created this really destructive cycle. You know, he was jealous and angry, and I was needy and anxious. And we broke up probably like 5 or 6 times, I think. And each time I was devastated. And when I was with him, it wasn't much better, right? And right, it was like, I actually couldn't understand what was happening to me, because I'd be having a conversation with him and all of a sudden I'm like 2 years old. Does anybody ever have that happen? Right. Or you see women that are like really successful and put together, right? Women like Leela. Not trying to call you out, but, and then they get into a relationship. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, we're 3 now. Okay, right? And that's normal, that's natural, I know that now. But at the time I was like, what the fuck is happening to me? You know, like I didn't get it. And so my childhood scripts, you know, those voices that I had, it was like, am I the problem? Is there something wrong with me? Am I crazy? Am I just destined to be alone? Like, do I deserve this? You know? Should I just settle for somebody that, you know, I don't like because it's safe? You know? And I remember this one time I was lying on my bedroom floor. It was after one of our breakups. And I was curled up in a ball and I was scrolling YouTube. And I think I typed something in like, you know, how to heal from a toxic relationship or something like that. And the videos that popped up were about inner child work. And that made so much sense to me because I was a preschool teacher actually at the time. So, and my degree is human development. So this idea of talking with the little girl inside me and addressing that pain instead of addressing it externally with him made so much sense. And I became immersed in it. I began to treat that little girl inside me like she was as important as capital H him. More important, actually, you know? And that's when I realized that any relationship challenge that anyone is faced with ever is not happening to us, it's happening for us. And the pain is not about him. He is not the cause of it. He's just the catalyst that brings me back to the original wounding. It's an opportunity to heal. Any negative relationship that you have in your life is just pointing out what needs to be healed in you. It's an opportunity, right? So from there, I went to a training in 2015 to do inner child work with my mentor in Utah. And since then, I've been doing this work with others, you know, which has been transformative and amazing in and of itself. But I'm going to tell you, business brought up like a whole new level of shit. Right? Especially those sales conversations and the amount that we're charging and seeking my offer, you know? It's like scary every step of the way. I've had to really use those tools, you know? But what I've found is that our relationships, our personal relationship, as well as our relationship to ourselves, is intimately linked with what's going on in the business in those areas. So I use those sales conversations, the ones where I hung up the phone and I'm like, oh, I fucked up, you know? I use those as opportunities once again, and I've gotten stronger, right? And my business is thriving because I know how to commit. I'm so committed to that man. I am so committed to my community. Like it makes me want to, I can't even tell you how committed I am. And I commit to my clients that way because I know how to do that. And guess what? They commit to me. They renew. I have clients that have been with me for years since I started. You know? And I know how to feel people, and I'm not afraid of that anymore. So even if you're selling a product, it's like you have to know your audience, and so you have to feel them, right? And when you're having a sales conversation, it's even more, you know, so being able to sit eye to eye with somebody and have that conversation and see into them, feel into them, you know, that's intimacy. Like the word intimacy could be broken down into the words into me, you see. I'm sure you're quite familiar. We have our intimacy relationship coach here. But we have to be able to do that. We have to be able to, they need to feel us actually feeling them. They need to know that we understand them. And we have their best interest at heart. And when they know that, because they can feel that, because you're genuinely showing up with all of you and you see them, they will buy from you. 100%, you know? But if we're scared and if we're like soft and we block off and like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm charging so much money, right? It's not gonna work, you know? And we have to learn how to communicate too. If we have a team, you know, like Mickey and Leela have this awesome relationship, you know, with our coaches, we have to learn how to communicate, resolve conflict. These are really important things. So, you know, I'm going to give you just a couple of steps. I know I've been talking a while, and then we'll shift, but just a couple of things to keep in mind that will help you moving forward to create more intimacy and better relationships and be less afraid of people. So the first one I'm going to recommend is the inner child work. And I know that it sounds like kind of this fluffy, like new agey concept. It's not. It is incredibly powerful. She knows what I'm talking about. I can feel it. It's so powerful. Why? Because the inner child is a representation of the subconscious mind. It is the best, most effective way that I personally have found to work with the subconscious mind. And why is that important? We make 95% of the daily choices in our life that we make from the subconscious mind, not the conscious mind. That means like all the visioning and the sticky notes and the affirmations, that's the 5%, which is like great. But imagine if you could unlock that 95% and make it more of a conscious choice, if you had more dominion over that, because right now your inner child is driving the bus. Like they're picking your partners for you. They're telling you how to show up in sales conversation because that's mom, or that's dad, or that's your brother or your sister, or Cindy in the 5th grade who told you had funny teeth, right? Yes, Antoine?
I just want to mention that I do inner child work almost on a daily, and everything she's saying is like.
Yeah, well, I work with him, my partner, my community. We do this work together. Yes.
And then are you also like, do you differentiate inner child, inner teenager?
I do work with the inner teenagers and the young adult selves. My early 20s self, you know, that had the suicide attempts, my teenage self that was acting out. Like I talk to all those parts of me, and I talk to all of them with love, you know, I talk to all of them with love, even the ones who talk to me hatefully. And that is because those voices, those parts of me, they're giving me what they believe I need in order to stay safe, always. There's no part of you actually that doesn't love you. It's a lie. Every part of you loves you. It's just that they're going about things based on outdated information, and they're trying to either get a need met, you know, or keep you safe. So if you start to dialogue with these parts of you, if you start to stop and really feel when you get if you get off a sales call and you're like, oh my God, you know, and you're just feeling that, oh, put your hand over your heart, sit with it, you know, and then you close your eyes and you find that little girl or that little boy inside, and you talk to them and see what they need. You know, I also do work that's a little more in depth to go into traumatic memories and completely rewire the situation and change your vibrational point of attraction. That's incredibly powerful work, you know, but you can start doing this today with what I just shared. Just feeling into that part of you, that little girl, that little boy. You can ask, how old am I right now? You'll usually get a number, you know, and you can talk to her or him. So that's really, really important, because you don't want to be unconscious with that stuff in your relationships, professional or personal. Yes?
Can you time travel?
Abso-freaking-lutely. I'm so excited that you said that. I'm Pleiadian, by the way. Can you tell? Um,
Like that's like to level up, you know, it's like
1000%.
inner child looks great, but then to like take that to the next level. Yeah.
Well, it is, yeah, I do quantum traveling
Yeah.
with people. So when we go back in time, I like to say when you go backward, you go forward, and when you go forward, you go backward. So when you step into a new relationship and you're having these experiences that are bringing up those things inside of you, that's the invitation to go backward along the timeline, work with the inner child. And then when you come back, you're like catapulted forward. Same thing is true with future self work. If anybody has ever done that, or visioning, where you step into this other version of you that's kind of down the line. Generally, what happens is all the shit back there that is like not a match to where you're going is going to come up. So it's this cyclical, sort of beautiful process, and everything meets in the present. Which brings me to step 2, which is getting really clear right now about who you are, what your boundaries are, what you want and need, especially in your relationships. And this is like, it sounds really easy, but people don't know what they want. Like, not really. And desire is the most powerful manifesting force in the universe. So we want to use that to our advantage, right? We want to get really clear. So I have my clients make a list, you know, after our first call, usually, that I call the NWD list: needs, wants, deal breakers. Deal breakers are important because if you don't have any, there's a high likelihood that you're tolerating stuff that's not actually okay for you. And you get to use the information that you have from your inner child work, from your previous relationships, and from just what you're visioning in the future. You can always revise the list, right? Get clearer and clearer and clearer. Boundaries are really just a sense of self. So it's just feeling into yourself and knowing, you know, what's true for me and what I want and need, getting really real about that. I'm not like the cool girlfriend that like can let a guy not text me for 4 days. Like, that's just not who I am, right? Those are the kinds of things you want to start to admit to yourself, you know. Step 3 is you have to get into a relationship or have relationships, which, you know, a lot of people in the business world and in the personal development world are not going to tell you that, but I don't personally believe that you can, you know, heal relational trauma sitting by yourself in your bedroom reading personal development books. Like, it's not going to happen, right? And like self-love and independent, like, this is all great work, but the truth is, if you don't get out and start actually relationshiping with people, your growth will stall. And when your personal growth stalls, your business growth will stall, right? And we tend to think we have to be in this perfect place, like, oh, now I've arrived in this place where I like love myself and I, you know, I'm ready for that perfect person and it's going to be perfect. No such time or place or thing exists. You know, I'm just going to be honest. So it's going to be messy. You know, you're probably going to fuck up. You're going to say some stuff that's silly and you're going to, you know, react in these ways. But those are all the invitations to continue the healing process, right? And you're going to have to learn about things like how to commit, how to trust somebody, how to open yourself to being fully seen, and actually, most importantly, how to communicate. And that's real important in business and in sales, how to resolve conflict, right? So I know I just have been like ragging on personal development for the past like 20 minutes, but I'm gonna give you one book recommendation, that's all you get. And that is the book Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. I read it about 7, 8 years ago. It completely changed my life because it changed the way that I communicated, you know? So highly recommend, highly recommend. Marshall Rosenberg. Marshall Rosenberg. There's a lot of free resources online as well. It's all about identifying your needs and how you're feeling and being able to speak them to another person in a way that minimizes defensiveness, right? And maximizes solution. Because in a relationship, you're either moving away from each other or you're moving toward each other. There's no standing still. So that's a really great question to start to ask yourself. Am I moving towards or am I moving away from, right? that book and those skills helped me to always move towards, even in conflict, which is challenging, right? So this is a lot, and I've given you guys a lot already today to just sort of chew on. It's really my joy to help people with this. Whoa, okay. Interesting. It's my joy to help people with this, you know, and to see their whole lives change when they prioritize relationships, you know. And I know that my message doesn't necessarily resonate with everybody, and that's okay. But I do want to just encourage you to ask yourself the question, like, if I had relationships in my life, or a relationship in my life where I felt fully held and supported in everything that I did, what would be different about my life? What would be different about my business? If I were not scared of people to the degree that I am now, if I could look anyone in the eye and speak my truth, what would be different about my life? What would be different about my business? I love seeing people writing things down. Like Leela, I'm a former teacher. Anyway, thank you so much for giving me your attention. Really, I really appreciate it. How many of you guys think you might need some help with all of this stuff? Okay. Even if you didn't raise your hand, you probably do. I'm just kidding. I need help. I have coaches too. But if you're interested in having a free intimacy breakthrough session with me, we can get really deep and hone in on what your personal blocks are, you know, and find a path forward. Please see the sign-up sheet that's right next to Leela's. There's some times. Write your email down. I would absolutely love to connect. So I love you guys. Thank you.
Who had an aha about their business?
Oh.
About their life? Who had an aha? Raise your hand if you had an aha. Yeah.
Oh.
So great. So great. So we're going to take a little break again before we talk about how to create an offer and sell an offer and all of that. If you guys want to connect with each other, if you want to sign up with Julia's for her intimacy breakthrough session, if you want to go to the bathroom, we're going to take a couple minutes break and come back and dive into the money making stuff. But what I want to say is that, you know, Julia's doing really amazing work in the world. She also has a Facebook group. So if you're on Facebook and you want to join in and you kind of want to stalk her and all that kind of stuff, you know, see what she's all about, you know, maybe chat with her on the break, come up and say, hey, what's your Facebook group? How can I join? Because it's very active. It's a very strong community, and I highly recommend, if you're interested in her work, to join and check it out.
Yeah, it's so wonderful to have support in the healing process and people to share with. So, yeah, do chat with me. I'll be happy to.
Thank you, baby.
Thank
All right,
you.
we'll take a little break. Yay!
Okay.
Vulnerable and sharing.
Thank you.
And letting me join the group on Facebook.
Oh, are you on my group already?
Yes,
Yay! That's so exciting. Well, I want to tell you, I was like feeling me the whole time, and just
Well,
and
we have a
just your
similar story.
I could tell.
Yeah.
Because just your
Oh, excuse me.
which has been so great. And I've worked in special education so, you know, we go through these 100 jobs to totally learn it. So now it's like, I know some people talk about like how challenging that is, but it's like somehow everything got like more spacious because we're focused on the two things. Yeah. Right. I mean, we hardly even have space to like listen to each other. When it came to business, and you guys, it's like, yeah, so that's been really, like, our intimacy has grown so much, like, just through, you know. You know, I didn't like bring my stuff over here, not like it's far
Check it out.
Oh,
'Cause I just clicked on the same one that was on.
I think it's live streaming. Let's see.
Yeah, you already set it up for Facebook live streaming, right?
No, we gotta do it. We gotta here. Let's go. We gotta
Okay.
record it at least.
Yeah. Okay. We don't have your version, so we don't have the option to because they took it away. We don't have the option to stream on.
Okay. So
So,
we'll
if we had the premium, I would have known to do that.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what we're gonna do? Just stop this.
Otherwise, I would have been on it.